back again with another review, and this is for Creative Comics. My first Patreon review, and he wanted me to talk about and review The Dark Knight. So let's talk about The Dark Knight. Now, to sort of backtrack for a couple of minutes here on the other two Nolan Batman films, Batman Begins, I remember liking. It's definitely been a while, since I've watched the film, and I don't have the film on DVD or Blu-ray. I wouldn't mind picking that up at some point, to have. But yeah, I remember seeing it in a theater. I remember the hype around the film and the promotion. And there was a curiosity there because, just 8 years prior, we had Batman and Robin, which I'm not a fan of. But, this was getting back to more of a brooding Batman, more of a serious take and direction of the character. More of a grim take on Batman, establishing, his origin, which they sort of established in the film. But, when I look at the cast, Christian Bale, I had not seen Christian Bale in many things like I had not seen Christian Bale at this time, back in '05, like in American Psycho. I would watch that later, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen American Psycho, do check that out. That's actually my favorite Christian Bale film and performance. But, as Bruce Wayne, I felt he was a good Bruce Wayne. As Batman, yeah, I'll talk about that. But I do like Christian Bale. Michael Caine as Alfred, I liked. Michael Caine's a very capable actor. I thought he was a very good support. And he also had some other great actors in there. I mean, you had Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon. I thought he did fine. You had Morgan Freeman in there. I thought he was fine. You also had Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul. I thought he was good. You had Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow. I thought he did fine. Now, Katie Holmes as Rachel. I'm not too big on Katie Holmes. I felt indifferent about her. Which for The Dark Knight, they recasted that character. I felt Maggie Gyllenhaal was a better choice in regards to casting and recasting that character. I felt Maggie Gyllenhaal was a better Rachel. I'm just not big on Katie Holmes. But, yeah, I mean, even with Christopher Nolan, I mean, I had not seen Memento or Insomnia. But, so I didn't know much about Nolan at the time. But I do like Batman Begins. I mean, like I said, it's definitely been a while since I've seen the film. So, I need to refresh on that one. The Dark Knight Rises, I'm not a fan of. I'll be honest right up front. To me, it got way too big. And it became overhyped. And I'm not a fan of Tom Hardy's Bane. I felt he sounded like Sean Connery. Rest in peace, Sean Connery. But I didn't care for his Bane. I didn't care for Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. And, it was just kind of the culmination of everything at that time that this trilogy was put on such a high pedestal. And I'll talk more about that as well. But, because of this trilogy, that everything, if it wasn't up to that caliber of filmmaking or that caliber of a film, it seemed like everything else was either, thrown under the bus or dragged through the mud, whether if it's other comic book movies or movies in general, because of The Dark Knight and how big it was at that time, and between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, that a lot of people felt that, okay, now everything has to be like The Dark Knight. That if it's not of that caliber of, again, filmmaking or, that type of movie, that everything has to be serious. And that's kind of where my issues come in with the trilogy. I understand a lot of people love the Dark Knight, the Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I would say out of the three, I want to say I like Batman Begins more. I still like The Dark Knight. more so for Heath Ledger's performance. I thought, he was great as the Joker for what screen time he has in the film. I thought, and it's sad when you look at that and, being his last performance. And, and even at that time, casting Heath Ledger, a lot of people weren't sure. Because I remember the first image they put out was that you saw Heath Ledger, his Joker, behind some kind of like blurred glass or something. And you're like, okay, you wonder what this is about. And again, there was a lot of, at that time, people were like, Heath Ledger? Really? Heath Ledger as the Joker? Oh, this is not going to work. But, he ended up, putting on a great performance. And sadly, his last performance. But getting back to The Dark Knight, and I'll kind of go over the plot real quick. This is set within a year after the events of Batman Begins, and you have, Commissioner Gordon, again played by Gary Oldman. You have Harvey Dent in this film, played by Aaron Eckhart, and they begin to round up, criminals that plague Gotham City until, the Joker comes along, played by Heath Ledger, and he's creating a new wave of chaos. And, Batman's struggle against the Joker's become deeply personal, and it's forcing him to confront everything that he believes. And so Batman has to use everything in his power to stop the Joker, to stop his plans, and save Gotham. And that's kind of the plot in a nutshell here. But, the cast, I'll go over the cast real quick. Again, Christian Bale, he's good as Bruce Wayne. But as Batman, I have to be honest with you, and I know people are going to disagree, that people might go, okay, here we go again with the whole, Batman's voice, but it's just something that you can't really ignore. If people like it, that's fine, but, it got to a point where, a lot of people, people have seen these videos out there of, the parody, where the guy's making fun of his voice, and, these sort of Batman parody videos with the Batman voice. And I don't know why, they felt like they had to, make Batman sound like that. Like he's had 20 packs a day. Like why does Batman have to sound like he's had, 20 packs a day? I still don't understand, the whole, decision behind that we got to make him sound very, his voice is very, gravelly, or, again, like he's been smoking 20 packs a day. I just didn't really care for the Batman voice. But, when Christian Bale is Bruce Wayne, he's not bad in the film. Again, I think he does a good job as Bruce Wayne, but at Batman, the voice became overbearing and distracting. If people disagree, that's fine, but, again, when he got to a point where later on you would see these Batman parody videos where, I've seen a couple of them, haven't seen all of them, but people know what I'm talking about. This guy in a Batman suit, kind of playing on the voice and, talks like, doing the whole thing, people know what I'm talking about. But again, what he has, for what he has to do, like, as Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale is good. Michael Caine, no complaints whatsoever. I think he's fine as Alfred. I like some of the moments between him and Bruce. And like, some men just want to watch the world burn. And, just some of the, dialogue that the character of Alfred is given in this film. Again, I like those moments between him and Bruce. Again, what I just mentioned about, some men just want to watch the word, I can't even get the word out right. The world burn. There you go. I can't get out the word. But, yeah, Michael Caine's still good. Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon. Again, he's a good support. Morgan Freeman, again, it's good to see him back here. And again, with the addition of, in this film, Heath Ledger as Joker, which again he gave the performance of his life. And before this, I mean, I did like Heath Ledger as an actor. You know, from The Patriot, Mel Gibson, that's a very good movie. And you know, it's sad when you look at, you know, ultimately what happened there, because, you know, he had passed away in January, and I think the film came out in July. But I remember where I was when he passed away. I was actually in the mall, and they had like a TV, you know, like in the mall on one of these like pillars, and suddenly it just came on the news. You know, Heath Ledger found dead at 28. I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, it just, you know, that's one, when you talk about or think about celebrity deaths and in the past decade and a half, you know, Heath Ledger he's definitely missed. And, you know, that's a death that people won't forget because they saw what he was able to bring. I mean, he was on the cusp of, you know, really breaking out. I mean, he had done some good movies before, you know, like The Patriot, Monsters Ball, 10 Things I Hate About You. I haven't seen A Knight's Tale all the way. I've only seen a little bit of that movie. But I did like Heath Ledger. And again, I thought he was a very good actor. And, you know, it's funny when when you look back at this time, people weren't sure about Heath Ledger. Like, okay, he's going to play the Joker? Really? Heath Ledger? But, you know, he ended up proving, you know, a lot of people wrong. Now, is he my favorite Joker? No, I would probably still give that to Jack Nicholson, but I'll give credit where credit is due here. And again, I felt Heath Ledger was a very good Joker. And, you know, for what screen time that he has in the film, because when you look at the film and rewatching it again, he's not in the film too much. But for what he has to give, and, you know, for example, the exchange they have in the interrogation room, I thought was really good. Heath Ledger really shined in those moments. And even how the character's introduced, where, you know, he walks up to the table and, you know, he's like, let me show you a magic trick. I'm going to make this pencil disappear. And again, I like the way that character was brought in. And so, yeah, Heath Ledger I have no complaints about. I will not take anything away from his performance in the film. So Heath Ledger was great and definitely deserving of the Best Supporting Actor, which he got a year later. And Heath Ledger's definitely missed. Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent. I thought he was good as Harvey Dent. Now, when you get to the actual Two-Face, where how that came to be. So now, what happened of how he became Two-Face was apparently, you know, some acid was thrown in his face, and that's how I always knew he became Two-Face. You know, and it happened during, like, you know, some acid was thrown in his face by a, you know, mob type of character. But in this, you know, his face gets burned. And, you know, as far as the whole Two-Face look, I think it could have been done better. I mean, I just felt at times, you know, the CG was noticeable. Like, I really felt that they could have done away with makeup. Like, if you would have, I think that they could have done that with makeup, with practical makeup. And then if you want to touch it up with, you know, a little bit of CGI, like, you know, here and there, that's it. But I think for the most part, you could have done that with makeup, with, you know, practical effects. I mean, I'm not saying that you had to make it look like Tommy Lee Jones, Batman Forever's Two-Face, but I think a lot more could have been accomplished if they had used, you know, practical makeup, practical effects. Because the whole thing of, you know, the other half of his face is burned, and like, again, you can definitely tell at times the CG is a little bit noticeable. But I do like Aaron Eckhart. You know, to me, he's a very good actor. I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but I do like Aaron Eckhart. again, you also have Maggie Gyllenhaal in the film who plays the character of Rachel. And again, I felt she was a better Rachel than Katie Holmes. I almost forgot her name, but yeah, I felt that I can understand recasting that character. So again, I felt she was fine. Like, I felt she was good in the film. Um, and so yeah, I mean, the cast overall, I mean, you also have Eric Roberts in there. Eric Roberts as this mob boss type of character, Falcone, or is it? I forgot the character's name. Um, Let me see here. Uh, I want to get the character's name. I'll take it real quick. Maroney, not Falcone. I think Falcone is, Tom Wilkinson's character in Batman Begins. I got the wrong Oni. Yeah, Maroney, Falcone. But Eric Roberts is good. Anthony Michael Hall's in here. Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall is a reporter, which is funny to see in the film. Like, Anthony Michael Hall's in there. But yeah, so I mean, but good cast. Now, as far as the direction of the film, again, Christopher Nolan, I had not seen anything prior to this, like Memento and Insomnia. Even Inception. Like, I've only seen a little bit of Inception. I haven't seen The Prestige. I think I have that, but I haven't seen that. But as far as Nolan's direction, I mean, it. I know that in regards to Nolan, that again, a lot of people, put his. They hold his direction in such high regard that this film set the standard or set the bar for, what other comic book films should be and what other films should be in general. Nolan's a capable director. He definitely has a mind and an artistic approach. But I think at times with Nolan, he kind of gets too, he tends to get, how can I say it? If I get the words out. I think he tends to get caught up so much into like his own bubble that, a lot of things get sidestepped. Like, escapism. I mean, I think at times, the action there needed to be more action. And I know by saying that, fans, what have you, are going to say blasphemy, and they're going to automatically, dismiss this review and dismiss this video altogether. But, everyone knows how great Christopher Nolan is. And I think at times, again, he gets caught up in that artistic bubble that I think a lot of other things get forgotten, or, that along the way we forget about, or Nolan tends to forget about, emotion, or, because at the end of the day, when you look at films in general, no matter, how high you hold a film or how bad, whatever, or in between, it's all escapism. I mean, it's all about having fun and being entertained. And, at times with Nolan and how he directs his films, they could be overlong. Even though I've heard a lot of great things about Inception, and I do have Inception, but I guess I'm trying to say is, in terms of Nolan as a director, I just think at times, I think he gets too caught up in his own little bubble. And, again, I know a lot of fans, people who love the Dark Knight trilogy, are going to say blasphemy and this and that. But I think at times, he needs to inject more, emotion, more along the way, that we can grab onto in terms of emotion and entertainment. I mean, whether that be, turning up the action a little bit. Which you get a couple of beats of action in the film with the trailer flipping over, and it's not bad. I mean, it's practical. I mean, it's all practically done. But I think with Nolan, just a lot of other things get sidestepped because of his direction. That, again, it should be about emotion, entertainment, escapism, and I think those things kind of get sidestepped or thrown under the bus because we have to be realistic. And that's kind of the whole thing with The Dark Knight, because it was placed on such a high pedestal, and that this film set the bar that every film after this has to meet that standard. And that's why I haven't really talked about the Dark Knight trilogy as much on this channel, because of that standard that's been. Now, I think in recent years it's sort of calmed down a little bit, in terms of people hyping that up and, really pumping out that narrative, if you will, or, again, that everything has to be of this level, this caliber, this filmmaking, this directing, this writing, and this acting, and if it's not, it's thrown under the bus or it's dragged through the mud. It's not up to par, it's not up to snuff, it's bad, it's worse, it's garbage. So, and that's kind of, again, where, my issues with the trilogy come in. Even though I would say I like Batman Begins, I like The Dark Knight, I respect The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger, I take nothing away from Heath Ledger. To me, he did a great job as the Joker. The acting is not bad. I have nothing against the acting in the film. But I think at times it becomes a little bit too contrived, with the social experiment in the third act. I think that's a point that it kind of got a little too contrived. But, I say all that, to say at the end of the day, while my issues with the trilogy is more about how the fans really pumped it up so much and the overhypedness, I will say the acting is not the problem. Heath Ledger is great, and it's sad that we never got to see more of his acting and what else he could bring to the table, because he was a great actor. And, if his portrayal as the Joker was an indication of what else he could have brought later on, he would have been still a big actor today. It's kind of like the whole Brandon Lee thing. Kind of similar. Both died at the age of 28, and both were on the cusp of breaking out, being big stars, and, just like that, their fire was put out. And it's sad. I mean, when you look at Heath Ledger, Brandon Lee, but, so, I mean, at the end of the day, again, I say with The Dark Knight, the acting's not bad. Heath Ledger's great. There's some decent moments, but I think the pacing could have been worked on better. And again, I know that's Nolan's MO, but rewatching it again, I don't outright hate the film, but and The Dark Knight Rises, I much rather watch this film more than Dark Knight Rises. I'd much rather watch Batman Begins more. Because again, by the time The Dark Knight Rises came along, it really got blown out of proportion. So I would say at the end of the day, The Dark Knight, and I know a lot of people say it's the best one of the three, and that, it's the best one of the trilogy, and I can understand that. And again, I like The Dark Knight. So, again, I would say overall, I like the film for the acting, for Heath Ledger, for the screen time that he has. Some great actors in here. I mean, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, Christian Bale when he's Bruce Wayne. Not fine with him as Bruce Wayne, but Batman, I think that, that whole voice and, sounding gravelly and like he had 20 packs a day, it became overbearing. for me. But yeah, that's all I have for now. I mean, so, there are certain aspects of the film that, I give credit to Heath Ledger, but, yeah, I mean, that's all I have for now. But just want to say thank you guys for watching. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this review. They're not going to fully agree with some stuff here that I've said here. But again, it's more about what came out of the trilogy, more so because of how much, this trilogy was put on such a pedestal at, the very top of that totem pole. And yeah, I mean, it was refreshing a little bit to go back and rewatch this film again. And it has some merits, but I was kind of reminded of how, again, just a lot of fans really pumped it up and this and that. But so, and maybe at this point I'm just sort of rambling on here, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the request, Creative Comics. And again, I want to get a shout out to Creative Comics. But thank you for watching and have a good day. Thank you for watching, and for those interested, feel free to check out my Patreon down below, which includes tiers for requests and more, as well as PayPal. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at TheZeroCool, which I post about movies, what's coming up, and other random things. Again, thank you for watching, and have a good day.